Okay, guys, good afternoon. Okay, before I forget, sometime today, remember to show me that you can run your code on the command line, right? If you haven't done so. Some students came to my office to show it, some did it in class. I'm not sure how many I've seen, how many of yours I've seen, but whenever you get time, open a command window, give your Java command and the Java command for your first assignment, and just come and show it to me and I'll jot down your name, okay? That way, at least while I'm marking your assignment. I think I've done only one third, there are 90 of them. Anyway, it will be done someday. I'll try to finish it this week. Okay, so this will help me kind of giving you marks. If I don't see it, then I don't give you marks for it in the rubric. Okay, I know the screenshots are given, but there's no proof that you did it. So when you come and do it on your laptop, I know you did it. Okay. Now, how many of you have BlueJ already installed on your laptops? I told you to do that a few weeks back. Can I see how many not? Not will be easy. One, it takes 5 minutes to do it, okay? Okay, so what we'll do is we'll shift from using whatever you were using, Notepad, TextPad, Notepad Plus, or Atom, another one I heard. We'll start using BlueJ today. So we'll stick to BlueJ for 2 weeks. Unfortunately, next Monday is a holiday, so I'm missing a week with you guys. But I can't help it. How many of you do not have a class on Tuesday morning 8 to 11? 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I was hoping that you could come to next week Tuesday class from 8 to 11 and then you don't miss anything. But if everybody can come, only then is it possible to kind of, make it official. Even if one student has a class, I can make it official. The other option is, of course, I record my classes, so you can always go to them, but that chance, that probability that you will go and look at the video and do the class yourself is quite low, right? My aim is to, keep both sections on the same level, and if I do more with them, I would like you also to know about it. So if, what I'll do is I'll put up an announcement today on Blackboard officially. And then if everybody agrees, yeah, we can come on the class on Tuesday, then the Tuesday class is also the same time. Sorry, is on a different time. It's from 8 to 11 in the morning in this room. So if we can all come in, I know it will be a big class, but I don't know if it can be done. But if you're not willing to come, then I can force you to come. That's the biggest thing. Okay, so what we'll do today is I had an older version, so I also downloaded the latest version of BlueJ on my laptop. If you don't have it, please go to bluej.org and download it. It doesn't even take 5 minutes to get it running, right? So we know how to write a Java program. Nothing changes. We still will write a Java program. We'll start to work on methods today. So till date, we've been writing flat programs, right? Top to bottom. So we write a program, write the main method inside it. We just write the main method inside it, and all that we want to do, we write in the main method. I'll refresh your memories a little. Last week we worked on a simple calculator. We took 2 numbers from the user and we kind of did everything with it: addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, and I think the remainder also was done, right? So today's agenda basically is to work on methods, and when we work on methods, we talk about parameters, we talk about return values, we talk about value and reference parameters, which I'll kind of give you a introduction. Necessarily, you may not understand it today or tomorrow, but maybe after a few weeks, you'll know what it is. We'll talk about what the signature of a method is. And then again, try to do simple ifs and whiles. I'm saying still simple because there's a full-fledged chapter on it. There is a switch statement and so on. But I've introduced you to the if statement last week. If you remember, we did a small if-else. Whichever number was greater, we subtracted it. So I'll kind of go a little more, maybe if-else, another if-else, nested, something like that. But I'll kind of keep it still simple. Because of missing 2 weeks in the first half of the semester, I am only going to do 2 exams. One that will happen as soon as you come back from the study week, and the second one in the last week of the semester. There is no other option, right? I mean, I don't want to give you a shock that you miss, there's no class and then there's an exam next week. I just don't want to. Anyway, so as we finish this week, I'll make up assignment 2, okay, which will be based on methods, and I'll again give it to you, and you'll have time to do it maybe during your reading week or somewhere, so that you have some kind of idea of what is expected in the exam. Right? So let's talk about methods today. Instead of just writing a flat top to bottom program in which we just write everything in sequence, this is what we want to do, this is what we want to do, we will now write a modular program, right? So a modular program is basically a program that is divided into methods. So you will have a main method. Execution always starts with main and ends with main, so there has to be a main method. But the main method is getting old, so it wants to take help of other methods and delegate its job to other methods. So there are advantages of having methods in a program. We are still only writing Java applications. We haven't even touched classes, right? We will do classes only after you come back from the reading, right? So I'm still writing structured programming for Java. We haven't touched classes. Maybe before you leave, the last week before you leave, maybe we'll do it then. Okay? But today I'll still stick. The aim today is to grill methods into your head. And I don't want to confuse things. One thing at a time is what I want to do. Classes have a different structure, different packaging, so I'll keep methods first. So what is a method? A method is main is a method, an example. A method is basically a named piece of code that does a job. That's what a method is, right? So what's so different about what we've done? Till now, you've been writing everything in one method. But instead of writing all the code in one method, we'll put independent jobs in different methods. For example, we had add, subtract, multiply, and divide last time. We'll make 4 methods to do that job. You can kind of think these 4 methods as the 4 buttons on a calculator. You say same code, more work. Why? Because if you need to call a method more than once, you can just say, method, can you help me? Method, can you help me? You can do it 10 times. So you write once and you can use it as many times as you want. The other option is copy paste it 10 times in the same program, but that's not a good option at all. We all know it. It's a very bad option. Copy paste is not a good option. Never do it. So if you could take that method, give it a name, say this is your job, here is your input, this is what I expect of you. Now do your job every time I say go. Job is easy, right? And that's what I'm doing. So we write methods to structure our programs in such a way that they are neater to read, one. They are more flexible. Anytime you need a method, you give it a name, you tell it what I'll give you, you'll say what I expect, and then you can call it as many number of times as you can and make it flexible. So we'll learn how to write methods today. We'll go slow, simple, complex, very complex, right? That's how we'll learn to write methods, okay? So I'm still stuck on procedural writing process. I'm still writing a Java application. I'm not doing a class yet, right? I haven't. If the third section is ahead of you and if you have friends, don't worry about it. They didn't lose a week. We lost a week, so we are a week behind anyway, okay? Okay, so having said that, please open up BlueJ now. And if you're not comfortable, you would still like to stick to whatever you were doing, go ahead and do it. So BlueJ is not a industry standard IDE, okay? IDE means Integrated Development Environment. So why the heck you doing it is your question. Because it's easy to begin with. And once I have it, once you can kind of see things, then we'll go to NetBeans after the study break. There are other options. There is Eclipse, was more popular a few years back, but NetBeans is more popular now because NetBeans is also maintained by Oracle and Java is also maintained by Oracle. So they try to kind of, keep track of it. And the third rising one, and many people have kind of adopted, is the IntelliJ from IDEA, from JetBrains, right? That's the third one that is quite popular. And again, people choose to use that more than NetBeans because the Android Studio is coming from the same company, JetBrains. And if you've seen an ID from JetBrains and then you see the Android Studio in which you create different kind of applications in, say, the third course, you'll say, oh, I've seen that IDE before. The same company usually will keep the same kind of look or outlook for their IDEs. So we'll go to NetBeans just because it's easier, and I'm sure you will see IDEA in your second and third courses. But if you like, we can do IntelliJ too. It's okay. I mean, I don't mind it. I haven't done it for a while, but I haven't done NetBeans also for a while. So I haven't done BlueJ also for a while. But this is a good educational tool. So we have 2 weeks. We'll stick to this, and then we'll shift to NetBeans. Okay. So now what you do is when you use BlueJ, you'll get something like this. You may not see this project that I have. It's something that I'm working with, so it's okay. It just opened it up, and it's perfectly fine. So it's not a big deal. You can just open up a project. The first thing you have to do is you create a new project when you do a BlueJ. When you use BlueJ, you'll say, if I don't want to, yeah, it's okay. But that's how BlueJ works. It kind of creates a subdirectory, and then it puts your classes in that subdirectory. So it does that job. Okay. So a project is basically, you can think of it as a subdirectory on your wherever you save it, on your local drive. So by default, I have chosen to save everything on my where I know where I should, but this is for the assignment. So I'll go to your Monday section. And here is where I'll kind of maybe create a new folder. It's not week 4, it's week 5, right? I'm going behind a week, or is it week 4? It is week 5, right? So my numberings are wrong. Oh, well.
You also lost a week though.
Yeah, so I should have started. So 2, 3, maybe 3 and 4 are in the same folder or whatever. And here is where I'll kind of create my project. Okay, so that's the folder I'll select. So you can choose whatever folder. It really depends on you. Now the name of the project. Give it a name that will kind of make sense to you in the long run. Like we call the greetings one greetings. When you do a calculator, you call it calculator. But this is nothing to do with the name of your class yet. Nothing to do. It's just something that will say, oh, this is what I did in this project. Has nothing to do with your class thing. No connection. BlueJ just has an extra step where you create a project, and then in the project you create the classes. So I could have called this week 5 itself, and I could have been okay with it, right? So I'm going to call it methods, so that I know, oh, this is a project where I taught my students methods, and I can create as many classes as I want in a project. Okay. So, or you can call it week 5, whatever. Put it where you think you can find it, and you don't have to ask me where it is. And there is the new project. So when I open BlueJ, because I was already using it for something, for marking your assignment, it just came up, but here is where it is. Okay, so this is how your IDE looks like. Very simple IDE. Integrated development environment. You'll say, oh, what's integrated about it? You will see that I can create a new class by just going new class. An editor will open, and I can start typing as I do in any. I can compile and run without going to the command line. I can compile and run my programs right here in BlueJ. So an IDE gives you an easier environment to work with. That's why IDEs were created. Some are really powerful, like IntelliJ and NetBeans and Eclipse are powerful. This is more from an educational point of view. But what I like about it is that it's a little visual, because we are not doing GUI here. When you create classes, I want to show you classes are just definitions, paperwork, blueprints. To use the class, you have to create objects of the class. And then it comes, then you can see things. And when you see things, you can make head and tail more out of it. So because we are not doing GUI in the first course, I thought this would be a good idea to use once you can see things in your head, and then we'll go to NetBeans, because in NetBeans you can't see anything, right? You just do it. Okay, so now let's create a new class. Now this is the class name, and this name will be the name of your Java program also by default. Remember how we said whatever you name your class is how you save it, .java. So this will automatically be done for you. Don't forget your conventions. For the name of the class, you use capital letter to begin with, and every word is capitalized. Now, at the end of the day, I really am not sure how I will end up and what I will do in this, but I can call it something that will kind of maybe say that's what I want to do. Okay, so I'll start with, I can create one class and keep doing things in it and kind of, make it bigger as we go on. And at the end of the day, we'll just kind of work that way. Let's call it calculator. So notice how I started with the capital C. Naming conventions have marks in your assignments. Will always have marks. Most of you are doing a good job, but some of you are not paying attention. So you lose marks. Okay. So keep that in mind. So it starts with the capital letter. Every word, my calculator, awesome calculator, whatever. Every word must start with a capital letter for a class name. Only for class names. Okay, so I've called it calculator. Please be try to be grammatically correct. If you're weak in spelling, sometimes I don't know, I have to double check too. Please go and check spellings and see that you do the right job. Is it a class? Is it an abstract class? Is it an interface? Are we creating a unit test? Is it an enumerated data type? Or is it a Java FX class? Java FX is for GUI. Okay, for us, let's be simple for now. We are just creating a normal class. Okay, and say okay. There, your class gets created, right? So it's like by default text pad got open. Double click on it, and there it is. There is your text pad. Okay. So notice how a few things have been done for you. Some are helpful, some are not, but that's okay. It has some comments right in the beginning which are new to you, right? You haven't seen those kind of comments before. You've seen a slash and a star and a slash for block commenting, and you could put anything in it. But these comments are called Java doc comments. Remember how I mentioned in the beginning that these are the actual comments that are what you see in the Java API, right? And it has a rule. Notice the author has to be called @author, not authors or whatever. It has to be called @author. The version number, you can put a date in it if you like, or you can put a version number. Usually what people do in real life, when you work on big projects, when you write a program, it's not 10 lines of code or 20 lines or 100 lines of code, it's thousands of lines of code. And you work on it over time, right? So you try to save your previous versions, you do, and you create new versions. That's one way of versioning. But if you're not aware, there are version control softwares or sites that are available, like GitHub, right? So on GitHub, if you save your work, if you keep saving your work, it is stored in. So if I save something now, and then I save something after 10 minutes, and then something after half hour, it saves all my versions. And this is called version control. And why is it necessary? Because we have a backup, right? So you're working on a program, you try to do something, didn't work, you want to retrieve. Of course, you can go Control Z, Control Z, Control Z, undo, but you can always have a previous version that was saved, and you can start working from there. So version control is a big thing in the computer technology or computer programming world. And again, I could teach you GitHub, but you know what? I'm trying to keep away from all these things and keep you only to Java. You will definitely look at GitHub in future courses. I do it in my intro to Java, in my second course, right? And again, if I'm okay and I see, oh, you guys are really smart, I'll show you how to use GitHub at the end of the day. Not a big deal at all. It's just like a cloud, right? It's just server. So you keep your work there, and you can make it, you should make it private, and you can say, oh, Anju can look at it, and I can do that. As I do my work here, instead of putting it on Blackboard for you at the end of the day, I can keep sending it to GitHub. I create a repository there, a directory there, and I keep putting my work. So on any time during the class, you can go and pick up the work if you've lost some, right? You can just take it from there. So it's not a big deal at all. You can do GitHub on command line. Many people still do it on command line. That's how I learned it. But there is also a GitHub for the machine, for the desktop it's called, right? So it's the command line one is called Git, and for the machine, I know about Windows, I'm sure it's for all operating system, but there's also a GitHub for Windows, and that's what I have. So as I kind of link, NetBeans already does it, has a link already. BlueJ, as I said, is a little poor guy, so can kind of directly send it to GitHub, but maybe once I start using NetBeans, I'll tell you how to just put stuff on GitHub. So So it's kind of an extra storage for you, and it's free, right? It's free. So the only problem with free is that it's public. So anybody can look at it. But students have an option of creating a private GitHub kind of directory, which you should do and will do for my course, or if not for my course, other courses. Why private? So that not every other student can look at it. Of course, you can still say, oh, that person can look at it, and you can. So there is no hiding anything from the outside world. It's an open source. Okay, so what you see here, and let's do it just because it's there. Instead of doing our usual slash and star, I'll stick to these comments just so that you can see them. And it says, write a description of the class calculator here. That's what it says. So it's basically asking you to write the purpose of your code, right? So what I'm going to do is, this program creates a calculator, or creates the operations of a calculator and of a simple calculator. But my aim basically today is to introduce you to methods. Of course, you won't write that when you give me an assignment, but whatever it is. Some of you are copying my comments. I don't mind it, but please copy what is relevant. So when I teach you, I'm saying, oh, this is new, is what it does. Create an object of the string class. These are the basic data types, int, float, cat, and all that. And you're writing everything. I don't need that. Just give me comments that are required for what you are doing in an assignment. Okay. I write a lot of code because I'm doing it for you, so that it's something that you can refer back to. So don't just copy and paste my comments, even if they're not needed. Okay. So author, of course, your name goes in there. And if more than one people are working, you just put a comma and just put, you don't say authors or anything. These are reserved, these annotations at the rate of, or they have to be spelled that way, they're written that way, otherwise they won't get created, they won't be compiled into Java doc comments. You can make comments out of it. You can have an API that looks, a class definition that exactly looks like what you've seen in the string class. Then comes a version number. And again, as I said, you can go 1.0, 1.1, 1.2, and so on as you change them, and do a save as. I will go with date just because I know, oh, it's October 1st today. October 1, 2018, right? So whatever you like. So the purpose, the at author, the at version. There are more ats there. There could be more ats there. There is an at since, if I can remember, but these are the two common ones, right? So since is what was the first version when you started, things like that. So we'll stick to this. This is an example of Java doc comments. It starts with the slash and 2 stars and ends with the star and slash. Different from your block commenting. Looks like block commenting. And those stars in the line, those stars are not required. They're just to make it pretty, right? So it starts with a slash and 2 stars and ends with a star and a slash. The stars in the middle are just to make them look pretty. You could have put them in your block comments too. Just pretty. So BlueJ does that for me. Good. It's done something for me. It already has created a public class calculator class for me, which looks good enough. And what we will do is we'll say thank you and remove everything out of it and keep the skeleton there. That's exactly what you do when you type it yourself. You say public class, the name of the class, and this is automatically in BlueJ is automatically saved as calculator.java. If you were using your own editor, you would save it as calculator.java. But it's already been done, right? If you open up where you have saved it, wherever you have saved it, if I go there on Monday, I think maybe I'll have to need it too. So there is my methods project. And inside methods project, notice how there is a calculator.java already created. So I called it methods, couldn't find a better name. I'll think about it someday and change it. But anyway. Okay, there. So let's start our class now. So we need a method, a public method called main. And its signatures are public, static, returns nothing, is called main, takes any number of string arguments. And again, if you would like to start on a next line, sure. If you want to keep on the same line, sure. That doesn't sound very good, right? Did you see a doctor? Bree, did you see a doctor? Not yet? It will go bad. Okay, and notice something else. How it is indenting your code. Notice indentation, easier to read, and I had mentioned that many of you have followed indentation in your first assignment. A couple of lazy ones haven't. Only lazy. It's always a good habit to indent your code. All programmers indent it. And IDEs do it automatically, so we don't have to do that. Okay? Okay, now let's start. We'll do something small and then kind of increase it. So I said a method does a job. It has a signature. We've already seen a method. We've seen a method called main. And I said you can give input to the method. Main takes input from you, though you haven't even given it ever. And oh, I should have shown it to someone. No big deal, we'll do it here. And it returns something. You say, main never returned anything to me. Of course it did. When it finished, it said, I'm finished. You never saw it. It said that to the operating system and you got your prompt back. So it did say, I exited, I finished my job. Okay, so now how do I write a method? The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to call and write a method to do a very simple job. Maybe put some welcome message on the screen because that's the easiest to do, right? So I'm going to write the purpose of this code on, like I said in your assignment when I said this program takes input from the user and displays it. Just system out println, nothing else, right? So if you want to do that in a method, this is all you do. You create a method. Let's create a method first, right? We would like, if you want, you can make methods private. Private means nobody else can use this method from outside this class. It's private to this calculator only. So nobody else can use it. Oh, so there is the private access specifier. Who can access it? Only anybody who lives here can access it. So anybody can use this method as long as they live in this room, right? So this private method is only accessible in this class, nowhere else. Where is this method available? Outside this class. You will say, how do you execute your program? This is the method that runs. Who is accessing it? The JVM is accessing it, and JVM is not in the class, right? So it's public. So I'm going to write a private method. I'm going to call it display purpose. The name of a method starts with a small letter and every other word is capitalized. Camel case naming conventions for methods. Don't forget. Okay. Now, this method does not return anything. So the type is void. So access specifier, the return type, the name of the method, and parameters, if any. That's the signatures of your method. If you like, you can comment what this method does. You can put a block comment here. There are also Java doc comments you can put here actually. There are Java doc comments, right? But again, Java doc comments is a different way of commenting, but you can do it. It's no big deal at all. So let's learn how to put Java doc comments. If it was a simple comment, you would say something like this. What does this method do? This method displays the purpose of the program. I've written a line comment so that I know what this method does. Don't leave it to me to read and say, what is it? What is it doing? I don't want to. I don't want to do any guessing games. I want you to exactly tell me what your method does. So this is how you comment it. Just comment it. Right? This is one way of doing it. You could put a block comment if you like, if the comment was really big, but it's just a line of comment. Now, does it take anything from you? No, it has an empty parameter list. Does it return anything to you? No. What a useless method. Of course not. It's not useless. It will do a job. Let's see what it does. It does a few things. I'm going to say system out println here. And we'll kind of make it as if we were, And let's write the purpose of the method, right? This method so since we know how to take inputs of two numbers and do addition, subtraction, all that, so we won't concentrate on the logic, we will concentrate on how to write methods. So we already know that stuff, we'll just change it into methods. Numbers from the user and performs arithmetic. If you want to kind of go to a new line, nothing stops you. We can kind of finish it here so that they're all in the same size. Input and performs arithmetic. And you can mention your sum, difference, product, division, and remainder. Got my double quotes somewhere. Something is not right. It is not green. Now it is green. So we are okay. And it is color coding it, right? Now it is color coding it. Now it should color code for everybody. So before, maybe if you were using a different software, my text pad was color coding it, but maybe not all of yours, but it is color coding it, right? So these are comments. Oh, I have double quotes. No clue why, but I have. There. So that kind of, just tells you the purpose. That's all this method is. So there's a few print out statements in it. All our print lines go to a new line. And look at the name. The name of the method exactly tells me what it does. It says displays the purpose. So names are important. Please don't do this. For example, in the assignment, I said take the student number. I've seen things variables being called stun, S-T-U-N. No. How long does it take to type student number? I don't want to see any laziness in my class. So I didn't say anything about good names. Next time I'm going to be careful and say use meaningful names. S-T-U-N-O is, I'm not guessing, Stuno. I could call it, I don't know what that is. Program name is a good name. Student number is a good name. Fees paid is a good name. If you don't give me good names, don't expect me to give you marks then. But I didn't talk of anything this time because it was not in my assignment. But I've added it for my next assignment. So I have to be careful to force you to do things, because if marks go, then you think about it, right? Okay. So there's the method. Takes no parameters. How do I know it takes no parameters? Do you see a parameter list? Yes. Opening and closing bracket. Does it have anything? No. It's an empty list. Doesn't expect anything from you. But does it return anything to you? No. So you don't have to catch the ball. It just does a job. So if it does a job and I can call it in my main method, there. We learned that execution starts from the opening bracket of main and ends at the closing bracket of main. So what did I do in main? I said I delegated the job of writing a message on the screen to this method called display purpose, and I said, do your job. I don't give it anything because it doesn't want anything from me. I don't take anything back from it because it says my return type is void. All I do is I invoke the method. This is called calling a method. Okay, so you're basically invoking a method or calling a method. That's how you call a method. So you have to learn a few things: how to write a method and how to call a method. Only then is it useful. What's of use if it sits there and it does nothing? So writing just is not important. You have to know how to use it. So this is the usage of it. So I've defined a method and then I have called it. So what do you expect now? When I compile this code, if everything is okay, and then I run this code, it will start with the opening brackets of main. Main says display purpose, do your job. The execution goes to display purpose. Display purpose prints out those 4 lines, comes back to main, There is nothing else to be done in main, and the program stops. Job done. Right? Let's try it. So save it. There is a compile button right here. Notice here. Or you can always go back here and do a compile from here also. Whatever works. If it is not compiled, you will see this diagonal lines. If it is compiled and it compiles clean, then it's okay. But it says, I found an error. Press Control K or Control K to or click link on right to go to the next line. What did I do? Oh, I know what I did wrong. I know it. Now, again, you'll have to take my word for it because I haven't explained it to you. Main is a static method. Let me give you a rough idea. Maybe you will get it. Main has to be called from the runtime unit, the JVM, and is just a method which has doesn't have a physical existence. I told you a class only is a blueprint, right? So the main method has been just written without creating an object of it. So it is static, means it can be called without creating an object of the class called calculator. I know it's Greek, forget about it. Just take my word for it. It's static. Now, if a method is static and main is static, there is no doubt about it. Remove it and you'll have an error. A static method can only delegate jobs to static methods. So the display purpose also has to be a static methods. Likes. Instead of saying same pose repel, here same pose will attract. So main can take help of only static methods. So that static was missing in my display purpose. Right? Let's try it again. So I got an error, though the error was not very clean to you because, of course, because you're doing it for the first time. I knew what it was saying. And there it says, no syntax errors. Try to make syntax errors, remove a double quote, remove a semicolon, remove your opening closing brackets after display purpose, misspell display purpose when you call it. You get errors. Right? So your method is called display purpose, and because you're in such a hurry, you forgot the S. And now try it, compile it. I have an error. It says press Control K or click link on right to go. So here, the error is right here. So why should I press Control K? But anyway, there. That's why I should press a Control K. So BlueJ has improved. Okay, so it says I cannot find the symbol display purpose. Maybe you meant display purpose. So it's kind of giving you an idea. You misspelled. Because notice the method was called display purpose, and how did I call it? Display purpose. I forgot the S. So I'm glad that BlueJ has improved a little from when I used it years back. It's kind of telling you what to do. And how did I get that error kind of explanation? It said here, press Control key. As I said, this is the newest version and I haven't used it for ages, believe me, because I haven't taught intro for ages. Therefore, BlueJ is kind of out of my radar. Anyway, so let's say display. And let's compile again. So you're doing the JavaC. BlueJ is doing JavaC for you behind the scenes. You'll say, now can't I run this program on the command line? Of course you can run it on the command line. Nothing stops you. You just have to say where the program is sitting, and I can do it. So I'll show you. It's just BlueJ is doing the job for me. So why would I do it? So in here is where your program is sitting, calculator.java. Copy this, open up a command window, change your directory. There is where it is sitting, right? It is sitting in week 5 methods. Do your JavaC command, and it was called calculator. Looking for, because it's already compiled there. There. You can even still compile it on the command line. Nothing stops you. So IDE makes our job a little easier. So I don't have to go to the command line and give the JavaC command. And it has created a dot class for me. It already did. When I compiled it, it created a calculator dot class for me. Which means, can I run it on the command line? Why not? Here, run it on the command line. Oops, forgot to remove my dot. Delete this, say Java, delete your. I hope you haven't forgotten how to run a program on the command line, Java. There. You say that was not in the main, and you said it starts with main, ends with main, but main said display purpose, do your job. So it's delegating its job. So you say, what a big deal. 3 lines she put in a different method, gives it a name. I have to think of a name. I have to write it. I have to write opening, closing brackets, and then she says, oh, I've done a good job. But methods, writing methods is a big deal. You don't write a code of 1,000 lines. You divide and rule. Right? So you take your work and put it into needed pieces of code. Don't make everything a method. Try to create a method that does a job. So try to create useful methods. Right? One job. Now, my job number 2. To read 2 numbers from the user. Remember that job? My next job is to read 2 numbers from the user. So let's read the first number from the user, or input the first number. You'll say, where are your numbers? Declare local variables now. Now I'm using the word local variables. Till now I hadn't. And I think from this class was it, somebody asked me that, oh, by default, do variables have a value? And I said yes, but then I was proved wrong because local variables don't have a value. What's local? Local means like a local market, something that's local to where you live. So this room, we are all local to each other. We all can look at each other. We all can talk to each other. But I can't talk to the guy who's sitting outside and eating something. So he does not belong to us. So what is a local variable? A local variable is a variable that is defined between the opening and the closing braces of a method and is only available in that method. Nobody else can look at it. And has no default value. You have to give it a value before you use it. Okay? So it has no default value. So what you're doing is you are now declaring 2 float numbers. So I'll go float. You can use doubles if you like. I'm going to call it number 1. This time I'm going to use an ONE so that I can get you in the habit of using conventions. I can use it in the same line. I'm again keeping it with the practice of putting 1 variable per line. The conventions of naming methods and variables remains the same. Camel case convention. Start with a small letter. Every other word is capitalized. The class name is only the one that is different. Otherwise, everything else is camel case. The class name is fast naming convention. Starts with a capital. And remember constants? All caps. Okay? Okay. Now, you will say, oh, definitely I need a scanner. How will you read the number? But I'm going to do something for you. I'm not going to read it here. I'm going to ask a method's help to read it for me. And I'll call that method twice. Read the first number, read the second number. So if I had to take 10 inputs, I won't write input next float, input next float, input next float 10 times. I'll just take it from somebody. I'll say, you do the job of reading, just give it to me. You do the job of reading, just give it to me. Okay. So I'm going to call another method whose job will be to read a number from the user. So what does this method do? This method inputs a number from the user and returns it. Sorry for my spelling, because I get so excited talking, I forget that I have to spell things right. Okay, now let's look at its signature. Now you can again keep it private. If it is not required outside, you can keep it private. Something that is required outside, you can make it public, and we will learn about it. For now, this is the only class I'm writing. Nobody else in the world knows that Anju is writing a calculator. So let's keep it private. Don't forget the word static. Because who is going to call it? Main. And so it needs to be static. Now this method is going to take a number from the user and return it to the boss. Boss says, do this job and give me the answer. Who's the boss? The main method is the boss. What is the boss expecting? A float number. The job of this method is to read a float number. So what should it return? What should be the return type? Float. That is what a return type is. The return type says what is the type of the answer that this method is returning. Some methods don't return anything. Display one doesn't return anything. You could put an empty return there or go back. But by default, where does a method start executing? Here. Where does it end? Here. And when it returns, it goes back. Where? To the next line or to this line where it was invoked, where it was called. So I'm kind of going to take this and I mean, though line method usually they're written at the end, you can put it before also. So this method is going to return a float. What would you like to call the method? Let's say input number. Does it want anything to do its job from the boss? The boss is commanding it to say, read a number and give it back. But is the boss giving something to this method? No, doesn't need any parameters. I'll have to get used to Blue Jay. Again, there. So let's look at the signatures of this method now. This method, leave the word static alone. We are not even talking about static. Static just means, oh, I named them for now. Okay. This method is private. Its access specifier is private. Access means who can access it. Okay. It is a private method. Returns a float. After it does its job, it throws back a float. Catch it if you can. So the boss has to catch it. Okay. And takes no parameters from its boss. It doesn't want anything. It can do its job without any help from the boss. If it needed some help, it would have asked. And that comes in the parameter. And we'll look at it. For now, doesn't need any parameters. What is the job of this method? The job of this method is this. Bless you. Let's create a scanner here. Main doesn't need to use a scanner now. Why? Because the job of reading has been delegated to input number. So the scanner will be created right here in this method. Job doesn't read anything. Main doesn't read anything. Main says, you read it and give it back to me. So localized. I'm localizing the function or the functionality of the method. So the method does a job. What job does it does? It reads a number from the user. It displays a message on the screen. As soon as I say scanner, cannot find symbol. Let's see if it can help me. Let's see if usually good ones will help you. No, this is not a good one. Okay, so let's import it. As and when you will use better IDEs, as soon as you use a class, it will automatically put an import statement for you. That's why I don't want you to use IDEs, because first you want to learn. And then once you are a good programmer, then let the IDE do the silly jobs and you do the logic. So I need to import. Remember which one? Java.util or utilities. And I'll put a star here just because we did a scanner before. But I only need the scanner class from the util package. So I'm importing all classes from the util package. If you want to say, I exactly know what I want, put the scanner here. And that's why you had a red line on the scanner when I was typing it. Right? So notice as you type, you can see, oh, I'm making an error. And you can think what error is. So before compilation, these IDs kind of tell you something is wrong. Okay. And some IDs, as I said, are smart enough. If you do a right click on that red line, it will come up with suggestions or solutions. And then we don't use our brains. We say, oh, there is it. There is the answer. So it's better to use TextPad or Notepad or whatever for the whole semester, I would say. Because you do the job, you think everything. But unfortunately, my colleagues say, no, it's easier. So I'm kind of going with it. Okay. It's still saying something. No suitable constructor found for scanner. Now you'll say, what have I missed? Can you remember? What have I missed? With what am I associating my input? With the keyboard. And the keyboard is called system.in. And I forgot to put that in parameter. So notice how it's saying no suitable constructor found for scanner. I hope you remember what a constructor was. Constructor is that special method. Come on, I don't want your help anymore. Constructor is that special method that constructs an object. It's a method, but it is special. because its job is constructing the object. So the name of a constructor of this method, notice, is scanner, the name of the class. So names of constructors are same as the name of the class, and therefore do not follow the camel case naming convention, which all other methods follow. So they are called, it is a method. Notice it has a name, it has a parameter list, it returns something. What does it return? An object. Where did you take that object and put it? In input. So a constructor is a special method in every class whose sole purpose is to create an object of that class. So when I say new scanner, I'm saying, can you give me an object of yourself, please? Link it to system.in, which is your keyboard, and save that object in the name called input. You could have called it anything as long as it has a name, as long as it is something that I can remember. You can call it keyboard if you like. You can call it keyboard input if you like, right? But don't call it A for the heck of it. It doesn't mean anything at all. This is not a math course where we are using variables that have no meaning. We are using variables which have a meaning. Okay, so I've created a scanner. Now, how do you read a number? We've learned it so many times how to read a number. We use the next float method because I want to read a float into a local variable. Call it whatever you like, as long as it's a good name. I've created a local variable called number. And in that local variable, I'm going to use the input dot next float method. Bless you. Don't make me sick. If I go sick, I'll miss classes, and I can't do that. And I don't want you to be sick too. Okay, there. Look at the 3 lines of code in this method. It has created a scanner object, which you could have done in 2 lines. We've done this before. If you want to put it in different lines, you can put it in a different line. Though it's not common, but you can do it in this. There's nothing stops you. Here you only declared a scanner object. This is just called a declaration. You're declaring it. And here you are kind of creating an object. You're kind of instantiating it. So you just declared, you said, oh, input will be a scanner. Nothing exists. It's just a name in the air. It's null. By default, it doesn't exist. It only exists when you instantiate it. So here you declare a scanner object called input, which has no meaning. By default, it has null. It is not defined. It is not defined. It's undefined. It's just a declaration. It's undefined. It has a special value called null. And now you are instantiating or defining the input by calling the constructor, by invoking or calling the constructor. You can do it in 2 lines. Till now, I did it in 1 line. Nothing stops you. You can do it in 2 lines. And you don't have to just follow it exactly here. You can pick it up from here and put it before you use it here maybe. And you say, oh, I'll declare all my variables together because that's what you told me. It's a good habit. And then I'll do all my execution or all my executable statements. So what is this number? We can just say to save or to store the number input. Here. Usually the news goes with scanner. Why? Because it's such a common thing. You know what I mean? Like you can't use it without creating it. So usually we put the new scanner right there where we declare and define it together. We declare and define together. Here that line is just a declaration. It is undefined. It doesn't have a definition. You can't use it without saying new scanner. So it exists. It doesn't even exist. It's not even defined. We say it is null. Objects are null till you say new to it. And now, what is your job? So you took the number from the user. But you will say, how does the user know that a number is being asked? So That's how we know. A good friend will do the job. So this ask for a number from the user should go here. And again, it's a good habit if you can take all your line comments and kind of also put them in the same. Right, again, all these comments so that you can know what I'm doing with each one of them. Okay, 9 comments. So you've read it now. Now your boss told you to read it and say, give me the number. So your job is to return the number back. Look at the beauty of the method. This method has nothing to do with the outside world. It was told to do a job, and the job that was assigned to this method was read a number and return it. And that's what it is doing. And it is doing it completely. It created a scanner object because it says I needed to read the number from the keyboard. It created a local variable number because it said I have to save it somewhere. And then it returned that number to whoever wants the help of this particular method. Now you can combine return, you don't need number, you can do it, but I'll go step by step. And who's it returning it to? We have no clue who is going to take its help, but it just returns the number read. A method is an independent piece of code that does a job. And the job of this method is to input a number from the user or take a number from the user and return it. That's what its job is. And that's exactly what it did. And all these variables are local. You can't use this word number or this name number anywhere else. It's only right? These are local variables. Input is a local variable object. Number is a local variable. It only exists here. They have no default values. Objects don't even exist. No default values. So if you try to print your number here, system out print ln number, it will come up with an error saying, what are you trying to print? It's not even initialized. I'll get a compilation error. I have to give it something before I can print. So local variables have no default. So what is your job? Then you went and created a new scanner object and you kind of said, oh, here, that's what you are. Then you asked for a number from the user. You took that number and put it in the number box, and now a number has something. And now you're saying, if you want to print it, sure. And now you're saying return. That's my job. Usually methods don't print the answer. Their job is to return it to you. Because God knows what the boss wants to do with it. Eat the number, do further something with the number, print the number, throw away the number. We don't know what the boss needs to do. So we just say return, do whatever you want. The string class that has been written by some guy and is sitting in the library and you use it, he doesn't know how I'll use it or how Brett will use it or how Adam will use it. No idea. I'm learning names. I'm getting better, right? How Jeff will do it, how Bobby will do it. No idea. So the string class says, you call my method, I'll return you the answer. You do whatever you want to do. Therefore, methods usually don't have printing statements. Sometimes error messages, that's different. These printing messages, please input a number, is not an output. It's just a question being asked. They'll never print their outputs. They will always return their answers. And then it's up to you. Put it in your pocket, throw it away, eat it, drink it, whatever you like. Right? Okay, so you don't ask questions of the box. You just give the answer back. If I say, get me a coffee, don't ask me. Just get me a coffee. I'll see what I want to do with it. Okay? That's the method. Now, how to use this method? So, this method's job is to input a number from the user and return it. That's what its job is. Now, just because BlueJ is giving you Java doc comments, let me also write a Java doc comment for you here. Okay, now what do you do in a Java doc comment? You kind of give it a description. Like you gave a description, give it a description. Then that double line comment is useless because the description is right here. Does it take anything from the user? No. But does it return anything? Yes, it returns. So use @return. So @return is a magical word which the compiler understands, and it will convert it into a proper thing. And I'll show you how. I'll show you what I'm using here. Where is it coming from? And what does it return? A number. Or you can say a real number. Or you can, that's what it returns. So @return a real number. So short description of the method, parameters if any, and this doesn't have any parameter, and @return. Those are Java doc comments. And let me see if I can create okay, I'll have to kind of learn it because I'll have to Google it. But what does it create is something like this. Let me show it to you. So let's go to Java docs. Let's go to the string class, because that's the only class we've kind of used till now. I haven't used it to the extreme. There it is. And let me tell you the use of that return method assembly. Okay. The return that you wrote will be written like this in your documentation file. So when you say @return in that Java documentation, that's what it produces. So see, whoever has written this character @method for me has completely explained. I don't know who wrote it for me. I can't call him and say, oh, what does that character @do? It is a public method, returns a character, is called character char @, and takes a parameter of type int. We haven't done all that, but that's okay. So when we do parameters, we will have this. But notice the char value at the specified index of the string. The first char value is at index 0. Whatever you've written in your return statement here, this return statement will exactly, this line is converted into this line. That's what will happen when you create a Java documentation help file. Now in BlueJ, I'm stuck. I can't see here. I know it in the different ones. Here somewhere, maybe in help or somewhere, I'll have to go and see how.
Open the program and click on the source code.
Then it will?
Yes, and then select documentation.
Thank you. Okay, so we have an answer. Somebody's already trying it. Okay, so let's go back. So let's compile this. No compilation error. Method is ready. But what have I done with the method? I haven't used it. Now let me use the method. Okay, so now when I say input the first number, I'm only going to do this. Do my number 1. After I run it, only then will it come? Not after I compile. After compilation, it should come. Oh, here. Documentation. Here, Java doc reported an error. Oh, because I haven't yet completed it. Okay. Because I started writing something. If it was okay, then I would have. Okay, let me remove this for a minute. Let me save it. Let me compile it. Thank you. What's your name? Vandit. Vandit has a solution. I was seeing how to show you this. See, what you've written is exactly here. The class that you just wrote, Java lang object calculator. Remember I said every class mother is the object class. So it says public class calculator extends Java lang object automatically. Every class will extend it. Does it have a constructor? It shows you an empty constructor. You said, I never wrote the constructor. You haven't even taught us how to write a constructor. By default, every class has a constructor. It says, what will you do with the class if you can't create an object of it? So it created a constructor for you. The name of the constructor, same as the name of the class. Parameters, none. I can create an object of this calculator class, though it's not a class, it's basically an application. Let's look at the method we just wrote. There is a static void main method. And these are the methods that are inherited from the object class by default. And then there is no constructor detail. And then I should have two more methods. There. No, it's only showing me main. Where are my two methods? The methods that I have written. Static methods. No, there it is, all methods. Why is it not showing the two methods I have written? I've written two methods and they should show up. And I've clicked on, it is clicked on all methods. So it should show main, whatever, display, whatever, and then the third method. Loading class interface done. That's not good. Something else. What else can we do? We've compiled it. It's only still showing me static methods, and they're all static methods. That is strange. Why is it not showing me all my methods? Okay, I'll have to come back and think about it. It should, because in my source code, I have two more methods. Oh, because they're private. Because they're private. Private means nobody can see it. If nobody can see it, it won't be in the manual, right? Change it into public just for the heck of it. Now the world can see it. You're making it public. Compile it again. See, makes sense. Private said, I'm not going to show it to the world. And so nobody could see it. Now make them public, compile it and go back to your documentation. See, there, they got added to my class definition, to the manual. Now the manual says that there is a main method in it, there is a method called input number in it, and there is a method called display purpose. And it is telling you that they are static void, and the second one is static, and the return type is true, right? And the Java documentation that I've created for, which one did I create it for? This one, input. Click on it. See? Here is your returns that you do. And here is the description that you do in the Java doc. So Java doc comments produce Java documentation. This Java documentation is what you see in the API. And people thank you for it because they can use your classes. So someday, who knows? One of your classes may be unique Java API, and I say, oh, I won't get that. No, you're not doing it. You may in another 3 years put something in the Java library. And then I can say, that was my student. When it's good, the teacher takes the onus. When it's bad, it says the student is bad, right? Anyway, you do the same. Okay, let's go ahead. Now let's read the first number. Now my job is simply this. Input the first number and how. I'm going to call that method called input number. I'll take its help, delegate the job. So which method are you calling? The input number method. So I was told that the input number method is available for use. It is called input number, does not require any parameters from me, but is going to return a float to me. So what did I do? I called it. I was expecting a float to come back. I assigned it to a float variable. And now, educated guess, what will I do to number 2? Same thing. Use the method twice. Use it 1,000 times if you want. So one, it has made my code clean. Every method is doing a job. And what it does is independent. Input number has no idea how many times will it be called. It has no idea of who is going to call it. It was told to read a number and return. And that's exactly what it did. It created a scanner object. It created a local float number. It read the number and it said, here, take it. Don't forget to assign it to a box. If you forget to assign it, the number will come back that it returned it to you. But you didn't save it anywhere. So the boss is stupid. It's asking a question and then not paying attention to the answer. So it's the job is done, but you didn't keep it. So, and you cannot use the number. You say, oh, that was called number. You have no idea of what's inside the engine of the car. If you want to stop the car, you put your foot on the brake. That's all you know. So I was told that there is a private method. Now I'll make it back to private because public is saying, oh, anybody can use it. There's nothing wrong in it. I'm not here. Nobody's going to hack my calculator. It's okay. But I was told that there is a method called input number. I don't have to give it any input. I don't have to give it any questions. All I say is, give me a number. So I was told, oh, it will give you a number. I said, oh, will it? Sure. Like I was told, next int will read an integer. I was told next float will read a float. Did I ever question the string guy? No. I just took his word for it. So I was told there is a string class, there is a method next int to read an integer, next float to read a float, next line to read a line, and so on. And I said, okay, I'll take your word for it and I'll use it. So that's exactly what I did here too. I have my two numbers. I can prove it to you that I have my two, what now? Spelling wrong. Cannot find symbol. I have my two numbers. I can prove it to you. So just to prove it to you, I'll do the printing business also in some other method. Today it's all about methods, okay? Oh, let's start doing printfs now because you've given your assignment. And I must point this out because I'm seeing it. I've seen it. When you use a printf, then do not use the concatenation operator plus. The main aim of printf is writing the whole statement in one go using format specifiers. So I'm not docking marks. I'm only docking half a mark if I don't kind of see the format specifier %n and %d and %s. But the whole purpose of printf is writing is as if you were saying a sentence with fill in the blanks. Okay? So don't say, oh, I'll use pluses and I will use %f just because Anju said show two places after decimal. Just write it as a sentence and fill in the blanks. The first number is, I'm only using a %f and close it, put a comma, and there it is. So %f is the format specifier for a floating number. Let's see how it prints it. I'm not saying how it will print it with how many places of decimal. I'm not saying what's the total length. I'm just saying use the format specifier. So no pluses or anything. Write it as a complete sentence and then fill in the blank with whatever you want to do. And let's print out the second number also. Of course, the second number is, must have the right message, must have the right variable. And do you think I can do this? I don't get a compilation error. I'm okay. But what did I say? Number is local to that method. You don't even know what's inside that. You have no clue. All you were told was input number exists and its job is to read it. If I try to print the number there, which is in that method that I don't even have a clue of, it's going to give me a runtime error because it's going to say in this opening and closing bracket, do you see a variable called number? No. So how can you use it? You cannot. Compilation, let's compile it. It says I cannot find it. Who's this number? You'll say, no, it's the number that is being read. Did you do it? Main, did you do it? No. So mind your own business. If you don't know what it is, don't use it. Right? So you cannot do this. This number one is not available here. This number is not available. Therefore, you asked for it and you put it in your own box. And here are the numbers. Let's compile it. Let's see how it works. Let's run it now. In BlueJ to run it, come back here and do a right click on your, this is your class. This is your blueprint. Okay. Do a right click on it and call the main method. Notice because I have three methods, they're all listed here. All methods will be listed here. If they were private, they will not be listed. Now they're available to the outside world. I can use input number and somebody else can also. I mean, it's just public. It's just sitting there. Anybody can. But I'm interested in running which method? The main method. Why? Because that's the method that automatically runs when you give the Java command. So in BlueJ, you have to be careful that you run the main method. Running the other methods will work, but that's not what it is. Application, what do you run? Main. Therefore, I was making those private methods. Let's run the main method. It says, do you want to give it any arguments? Remember, I said you can give as many arguments as you want to main. No, not yet. No, we are okay. Okay, here comes yours. Here is your questions. Here is your output in your command line. This method inputs two numbers from the user and performs arithmetic on these numbers, some different product within. Which method is it coming from? Display purpose. Remember, main called display purpose. Please input a number. Main doesn't have that line, but main had called that method input number, and the question is being asked there, right? And give a number. So you put your number here, down here. Now BlueJ is a little different. It would be nice to, the cursor would have been here, but this has changed in BlueJ. So type your number here, say 12, right? Enter as you enter normally. It's again asking for your number. Why? You called the method how many times? 2 times. Give it a 13.5. Percentage n is missing. The first number is 12.000000. That's the default of 6 places after 6 places after decimal is the default percentage f. And the second number is, so the two numbers are available to work now with. But what did you do? The main method is clean now. You do the job, you do this job, you do this job, you do this. That's what an application does. So the main method becomes the master, and you write methods to do a job and return a value and call them as many number of times as you like. Okay, that's the use of methods. So a method makes your program not only readable, manageable chunks of code. And each chunk of this code, which we call method in Java, is doing a job. You could have taken these lines and repeated them. So it's done. There's nothing else. So before kind of this is very, very irritating, but you'll have to clear it and close the window. Otherwise, the previous comments, previous output also comes, which is okay. So notice what happened. 2 local variables were created. Display purpose was called. When it was called, it went here, did its job, you saw it. Input number was called. It did its job. The return value was saved and it came here. And then you showed that number in, I showed the 2 numbers here. I could have written a method to show a number and pass it. We will do it, but I showed you the 2 numbers and it printed the 2 numbers on the screen. That's my main method. So my main method will become smaller, but I'll have my code is still bigger because I'll have methods doing certain jobs. Appreciate the use of the method. Right? So it's not a big thing. I could have taken these 2 lines of, all I had to do was repeat these 2 lines twice in my code. But why would I do that? Because that's not how you program. You don't write the same code over and over and over again. You put it in a place, pack it well, call it a name, and you do it. That's what a method is. Okay? Got it? Are you okay? Is it overwhelming? You can say yes, I know. That's okay. But that's the easy ones. We'll take a 20-minute break. We'll have lunch to get our energy back. And we'll go a little more further in complex. Okay? Right? And it's your job today to keep on your online command line ready as I pass by you or you pass by me, we have 20 minutes. I only take 10 minutes to it. You can show me your running of your assignment 1 to get your 2 marks in the rubric. Otherwise, it's a 0. So this is saved, and we'll take a quick break. And if you're ready with your Java, you can quickly come and show it to me. I'm going to create a list here, and I can put your name there. If it's ready, come on, come on, come. I'll give you 10 minutes and then I'll go on break. So this is a list of students who are showing me their command line. Keep it ready so that I just look at it and, okay, ready on the screen. See, no, I said ready on the screen. That's why you are wasting my time. Come on, Brett. Okay. Double E's or double T's?
Double T.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead, done. Second. Java. So definitely you should have done a Java to do a Java. Name. Name.
Brett.
Brett with a G.
G.
Oh God. And you said Brett is not a common name and June. There you go. Come on, quick. Ready with it. Java can Java see name.
Oh, Brown.
Brown?
Yeah.
Thank you. Easy ones I can write. Java. Oh, that's okay. No big thing. Name.
Kirill.
Okay,
Yeah, it's right. Kirill.
Is that your first name?
Yeah.
Okay, so I've confused you with some other Kirill. Okay.
It's not last name.
So in the math section, we'll talk about it. Kirill, last name.
Mine's Lovsky.
M.
M.
That will do. Thank you. Next, come on. Quick. I'm hungry. I said come with ready so that I don't have to, yeah. See? Okay, anything that's ready. Ready, your name.
Elias Aguilera.
Lucas?
Elias.
Elias.
No, with E.
With an E. Okay. Last name Elias?
And Aguilera, like Christina Aguilera.
Just say the first word. A. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because then I don't have to worry about it. You're fine. Name.
Okay, Yuki.
Huh?
Yuki. So, Y-U-K-I. M.
M.
M. Yeah.
Thank you, Yuki. Come on. I'm hungry. Okay. Name.
Jiho. J.
Oh, okay. J.
E.
E.
H.
H. Y.
U.
U. E. P. Last name.
K.
Thank you.
Name Sean Sylvia.
On S-H-A or S-E-A-N?
S-H-A-W.
Oops, that's Sean. Okay. Thank you, Sean. Next.
Marcus Borich.
I have a Mark song also, I think, or Matt's song. Okay, I should be able to. Okay. Go ahead. Thank you. Good. Name.
Shini Kim S.A.
Oh, okay. Shini, I also made a boo-boo with yours also because there's another Kim. Okay, so we'll talk about it in math. Shin and Kim. Thank you. Next. Okay, good. Your name.
Giuseppe Leone.
Oh, okay. G-U-I-S. P-P-E something.
Yeah.
Are we right? And Leone. Thank you. That's fine. That will do. There's only one in my class. Okay, name.
Dylan Berkman.
Oh, yes, Dylan. Christopher's brother, right? Christopher. Last name Christopher? E? B. Oh, Bjorn. Yeah, right. Thank you. That will do. Yeah. You don't look strong, but thanks, Andrew. Then Andrew, thank you. You look quite strong. You're good. Come on. Java tuition. Okay.
Noah.
Oh, no. Okay. I'm learning names. I can put faces now. Noah. Delete. Okay. Next. Bobby. Last name? J.
O-N-K.
Oh, will do.
Yeah.
Thank you.
No, it starts with a J.
No, that's all I was asking. Jeff. Jeff, last name?
Haggerty.
H. Will do. Thank you. Will do. Thank you. Name.
Yevgeny. Y-E.
Y-E.
V.
V.
E. H. E. M. I.
Okay, last name.
Dot K. Grill.
Oh, that's another Kirill. Okay.
No, not Kirill. But it's
Yes.
Mandit.
Mandit. Yeah, yeah. Last name Mandit?
Parak.
Parak. Thank you, Mandit. His brother, Nicholas. Oh, no H? Ah, by chance. Okay. B. Thank you. Thank you, Nicholas. L. L. Kim.
Johnson.
Johnson. Thank you, L. Kim. Okay, name?
Chris.
Oh, Chris, last name?
Ermo E.
Oh, ERMEL. Okay, thank you. Thanks. Name?
Alex.
Hmm?
DA.
Yes, oh, yeah, the long name, right?
Yep.
Every time I have to put in your marks in math, I have to go crazy. Okay, that's okay. Javet, yes.
William.
William. Kathy? M. Oops. William became William. Okay, nobody else joins the line now. Otherwise, I'll faint. That's okay, that's okay. You stand here. You three can stand here. Name?
Ishan.
Last name Ishan? Thank you. Go ahead. Okay, name?
Parth. PARTH.
Patel?
What? BHN.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Not right now. When you want to check it.
Anytime before I leave class or in my office. It just takes a minute. I just want to see your screens, right?
Sorry, I wanted to like start it, but it doesn't start.
Yeah, because you haven't changed the directory. So when I see it, it should be perfect because you've given me a screenshot on Blackboard. So you should know how to do it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you do it and then you can show it to me afterwards. No worries. Let me save this before I forget. Okay, so courses, Monday, assignment 1. Screenshots, save. Java and Java. Name.
Vladislav.
Go ahead.
You can see. No.
No, okay, spell out.
V.
V.
L.
Vlad. Okay. Okay, thanks, Vlad. Adam, yes, go ahead. Show me. Oh, you're just showing me that you can run on the command line. I was seeing the first assignment, but that's okay. You know how to run on the command line. Remember assignment 1, you've given me screenshots?
Yeah.
But how would I know that you ran it? So, but I can see you can run it.
Oh,
That's okay.
that's good enough then.
Good enough then. Okay, guys, give me a break now. I'll be back in 10 minutes. Hopefully everybody is sure. The addition is 0.
Sorry. Oh, yes. And compared to you guys, on the day, you're the first. How do you do it? You can use this.
She told me just.
Highlight picture.
We'll have to test it out extensively.
It's, that works nice. I understand it, but I understand. That's it.
Yeah, you don't really. Your.
Seen it.
You look like you want to say something.
Yeah. I can see it. Yeah. Yeah, that can be like it's good. But if you're sitting on your clients looking at your show, I'll change it all the time. I can do this and then it'll just stay. It's like, oh yeah, you can do that, yeah. I don't think that should be good. You change it. It's not your problem. Just like messing around with website. I feel like ask everybody up there. I'm sure this guy across the road has the same idea. Really? CSS is like CSS is like I know what I'm looking for.
Yeah, excited.
He's predicting.
Okay. Are we back? One missing? Okay, one more minute. Oh, there we are. Why are guys missing? So I'm going to put my methods back to private because that's the kind of the convention in an application, unless, I mean, But definitely they won't be private when you start writing classes. But in an application, these methods are just private because everything is taken care by the main method. Okay. So I put them back to private and I'll try to follow conventions logically. Okay. So we can remove the system was only to show you that, oh, I've done my job. Now you want to do arithmetic with these numbers. Again, I could declare variables on the fly, but again, I've said as a habit, I usually declare my local variables at one place, usually at the beginning of the method, right? That's how I work. Some people just kind of declare it where they assign a value. It's up to you. So we will need some variables, and we had kind of talked about, oh, the sum could be double because you're adding to maximum, and mathematically the product could be double. The quotient, we assumed kind of that the quotient and the difference. But if two negative numbers are no, okay, difference can be smaller. This is just to kind of, you know, make you think. It's not as if, oh, why is she forcing us to make these float and these double? This is just thinking, oh, some when you add to maximum floats, you could get a double. When you multiply two floats, you could get a double. Sometimes students will make everything double and not even think about it. So I'm just trying to make you think. That's the purpose. And of course, the remainder, if you want, the remainder is again a float. So we've done all this math before. That's not what we are kind of working on today, right? What we are working on is methods today. Okay, so now let's see. If I wanted to do arithmetic, and there were single lines, plus, minus, and so on. They were very simple. I can do more, but let me finish these small things first, and then we can start adding and making it more pretty. I can make a menu. You can decide whether you want to add, subtract, multiply, divide numbers. You don't have to do all the operations. Okay. So now in my sum variable, I want to add the two numbers, but I don't want to do this summing here. Everything is delegated. All jobs are given to something. Main is just a master, as I said. So I have 5 variables here, which I haven't assigned any value, but I will, right? And then at the end, I will call the display output method. So let me just kind of complete it. It's not yet complete. We'll go one by one. Okay. So now for this sum, I'm going to delegate this job to somebody who can add numbers for me. So his job is only adding, or its job is only adding. So now think about it before I write its signatures. If the job of this method is to add two numbers, will it require something from whoever is calling it to do its job? If the job of a method is to add two numbers, will it require something or anything from whoever is saying add two numbers? Yes. What? What will it require? The two numbers. Right? You're saying add two numbers. The method says which two numbers? So now these two numbers that you want to add, you will pass them as parameters to that method. Okay, because that's its input parameters. They're called input parameters. Okay, so let's write the method first. So where were we? Here. Okay, here. So this method. Now let me write the Java documents. I mean, they're not very useful because they're all private methods, but at least you're learning how to. So this method returns the sum of two numbers. That's its description. So we know that it will have an at return. But it will have something extra. Okay, let's write its signatures. I'll make it private. So Java doc comments for private methods are kind of, I must say, useless because nobody sees them because they're not put in the documentation file. Okay, what will it return? What is the return type? When you add two numbers, you're adding two floating point numbers. It could be a bigger number. So the return type is double. Right? Okay, what would you like to call the method? You can call it whatever you like as long as it is a good name. And now it requires two numbers from you. What are the type of the two numbers? Float and float. Oops, spelling is wrong. Now I have no clue that whoever is going to ask for my help, and I am add numbers. So I am add numbers. Somebody may say add my number 1 and number 2. Another guy may say, oh, add my two numbers n1 and n2. There may be a third guy who says add my two numbers num1 and num2. I don't know what they call their numbers. I have no idea. But locally, I add numbers will call my local variables and my parameters as number 1. I don't care who is calling it what. When they come to me, the two numbers that come to me, I am going to call them number 1 and number 2. So number 1 and number 2, though are in the parameter list. This is now a parameter list. Notice this, it has two parameters, a float and a float. The sequence is important. If it was a float and an int, it is different from an int and a float. Here both are floats, so it's okay. So you have two parameters of type float. And they are also local variables. They are local to this method. So I have to declare them here because they're coming as parameters. Otherwise, I would have declared them inside the opening and the closing braces. So since we are kind of writing more and more, I'm going to start putting of add numbers, of input number. That way I know who's the beginning and who's the end, okay? It kind of helps because these are silly mistakes of display purpose. When you start an opening bracket, put a closing bracket, that way you won't go wrong, and also add a kind of a, and this was of your main program or of main of class calculator. There, okay. So now look at the signatures of the methods, please. 1, the method is private, so it's only available within this class. 2, it is returning a double. We already kind of talked about why are we making sum a double, because two big floats can give a double. The name of the method, I chose to call it add numbers. You could have called it sum numbers. You could have called it add. You could have called it something that makes sense. And it takes two parameters. Why? Because I'm saying add two numbers. The two parameters are of type float and float. And locally, I'm calling them number 1 and number 2. I don't care what you call them. When you give them to me, I'm going to take the first one, put it in number 1, take the second one, put it in number 2. And so what is my job? What is the job of this method? Now we can go short. We can simply say this. You don't have to create any local variable, sum or anything. You can simply say this. That's his job. So, but if you wanted and you're new and you're kind of overwhelmed with too much going on, you could have created a local variable sum. You could have put into sum number 1 plus number 2. Like you've learned to write statements, and you could have said return sum. So you can, if you like, write 3 lines of code, or you can simply say return number 1 plus number 2 and write a line of code. So here is a method which is taking parameters. Now comes the big question, how do I call it? I have to invoke it. So it's ready. It takes 2 values from you in the sequence float and float. By chance they are same, so that's okay. But the sequence matters. If it was a string, a float, and an int, you exactly have to pass it string, float, and int. It requires 2 floating point numbers from you, adds them. You'll say, well, how does it add it? Using the arithmetic operator plus, and returns you the answer. Job done. You can call it, I can call it. Guy next door can also use it, but cannot because it's a private method, is only here. Okay. Now let's use it. So to use it, I'll put it here. I'll call it here, right? Call add numbers because it is returning you a value, and pass it what? Pass it number 1 from here and number 2 from here. The actual values that are passed are called arguments. 2 arguments are passed. Here we call it arguments and there we call it parameters. So when I'm calculating the sum of 2 numbers, the only information I have is this. The method is called add numbers. It returns a double value, is expecting 2 floats. I don't care what it's called there. What is it doing? I have no clue. I'm not interested. So methods are independent code that do a job, and to call them, the job is their name. What do they return? What do they want? You're not interested in the code, right? You're not interested in the code. You've not even seen the code of next line, did you? Did you see the code of next int of the string method? No. Next float? No. Maybe a few of you, maybe a couple, maybe one. They wanted to see what was written there. But I've never seen it. I'm not interested. I'm happy with this that somebody is reading an int for me. I don't have to worry about it. Right? There, the sum is done. Just for your information, I'll comment it out. I can even call it like this. Nothing stops me. I could have passed it with 3 and 4.5. There. I don't have to pass it variables necessarily. I can pass it any values I like. But why did I pass those 2 variables, number 1 and number 2? Because they change every time I run it. This, every time it will only add 3 and 4.5. So this is hard-coded data. Not a very useful calculator. Not a very useful method, kind of. If it was only doing these 2 numbers or it was only adding. So you can do this. There's nothing wrong. It needs 2 floating point numbers. And it returns an answer. You can keep it wherever you want as long as it is a double value. Double is coming back, put it in a double box. Don't put a double coming back into a char box. Don't put a double coming back into a float box. Double is bigger than float. Has to go, the return value must match the assigned value. Sum is a double. Double is coming back, I put it into here. And this sum has no connection, no relation, no brotherhood with the sum, local sum of that method. It doesn't even know there is another sum by the same name. So bread J has no clue there is a bread G in class. They're both called bread. I know it, right? But they don't. It's like that. So you could even call it like this. Nothing stops you. But why am I passing it these 2? Because that was the whole purpose. Take 2 numbers from the user and add them. If I didn't want to, then why would even I ask for the 2 numbers? Why is it giving me this? Remember we talked about it? That if you pass floating point literals, you have to put an F with it. That's the error it's saying in that red. Remember when you use numbers that are with a point, by default, they're assumed to be double. So you want to say, oh, they are floats. Why 2 floats? Because it is expecting floats. It's not expecting doubles. It is expecting floats. So your information, all you are interested is in the name of the method, the return type, what does it want? That's it. How does it work? Not connect. I don't care. Okay. So this will also work. It will show you an answer if you wanted to print it out. And just because we are doing it, you can even do this. You can call it right here in a system out println statement if you wanted, which I won't do it. %.2f. And just to show you how to put 2 places after decimal. And this is how you write a printf statement. You write it like a sentence and then you fill in the blanks. I want to show number 1 first. Then I want to show number 2. Then I want to show their sum, in which I can call the method right here. I can just call it right here. I can invoke a method right here. Nothing stops me. It's just calling a method. There. you can call a method however you like. You can call it, put the value in a variable. You can call it right in the system print statement and it will print out the result right there. It doesn't save anywhere. It's called, it returns a value, you printed it. Gone. If you don't save it in sum, gone. If you don't assign it to something, gone. Right? So do whatever you like. All these three are valid calls to add numbers. They're all three valid statements. In the first one, it is adding the two numbers you gave it, the user gave it. In the second one, it is adding 3.5, 3 and 4.5. And in the third one, it is again adding the two numbers you gave it, but it is kind of just doing it on the fly, on the go, as you do. Take a coffee on the go. Right? You can call it however you like. How will you call the difference? Now the difference will look very similar to this method. It will look very similar. The only difference will be what? The only difference will be, oh, before I go. Now this method has params, parameters. So you use the param to say, oh, it has a parameter. What is the first parameter called? Number 1. What is it? And you have another param. One param only defines one param. Okay, it's not params. What is another param? And notice the name I'm using. I'm using the local names you've written here. Because if somebody reads this definition, they're saying, oh, number 1 is the first one. It's the first number to be added, let's say, for the sum. Number 2, the second number to be added. For a minute, let me make it public so that I can show you how it appears in the Java doc. You can say real or some, you can mention float here, but the signatures are right here. So you don't have to say it's a float or whatever. So the add param, as many as add params as the number of parameters. Sequence doesn't matter, but usually in the same sequence as the sequence in the method. That's a complete Java doc for a method. A short description, add param, as many number of times as you like, and add it. There is more. You can say add throws also, but we haven't done anything. That Java documentation will produce this. So let's compile it. If I haven't made any compilation errors, I should be good. No, I'm not good because I forgot my static again. If I do it once more, Blue Jay will cry. There. Because we are not used to writing static methods in a class. There. Don't forget static. Static can only talk to static. Main is a static method, can only call static method. Compile it. Still found. Control K. Where did I make an error now? Remainder spelling is wrong. Cannot find symbol. Oops. And you know what? It is going to give me an error everywhere. Assigned what, it will say. Remainder. So for a minute, I'm going to comment out. Oh, I should have used the IDE. You can comment out lines together. And I'm just kind of going to compile it. Aim is to show you those still errors found where? Display output, not good. That's what happens when you do things before you should do them. Still error. Now where? What did I do in println? Oh, you guys are getting better than me. I'm glad. There. Okay. Now this is what I wanted to show you. So, see, notice the method? The params that you wrote, add params, have been written here. And it says number 1. And you can definitely see the number 1 right here. It's the first parameter. It says number 2. You can see, oh, that's the second parameter she's talking about. So here is the Java doc. Returns the sum of the two numbers. This method returns the sum of the two numbers. Description, params, returns have been changed into normal English comments for the manual, for the user. Now we're talking actual user. We're not talking a layman. Okay? Now we are talking actual users. Like I'm using the string class. I'm a programmer. I know what float means. So I don't have to describe it. I just I know what it means. I can read this manual. So that's what gets created when you write Java documentation here. Okay, having said that, let's start with difference now. So since it's already done, The other methods are very easy to write. Though I shouldn't be doing it, I'll copy and paste. I'll take this, do 1. And of course, copying and pasting doesn't mean, oh, just do whatever. And I'll try to do something different. Just so that you know that you can do this. Do you want to do your if? Sure, you can. We've already done an if. If you say, oh, it will always return the, you can't call the same name. You can't give duplicate names. So I can have 2 Bretts in my class, but a class cannot have 2 methods by the same name. If they have the same names, they must have a different parameter list. That's a rule. So 2 methods can have the same name, but should have different parameter lists then. You will say, but why would I name them same? Kind of think of it like there are so many constructors of a class. You could be creating a constructor with no parameters, a constructor by giving 1 parameter, 2 parameters. So it is easy because same name, but I can write 1 add numbers and I can be adding 2 floats. I can write another add numbers, but I'm adding 2 integers. I can write another add numbers, but I'm adding 2 bytes. So they're all called add numbers, but one requires 2 floats, one requires 2 ints, one requires 2 bytes. So names of methods must be unique for today. Okay. If they are same, then their parameter list has to be different. This list has to be different. In some way, when I say some way, I mean it could be an int float, float int, string something, whatever. But that's what it is. And to make it easy, I just kind of didn't create any local variable. I just said subtract the 2 numbers and return it. So this method, the first number to be, okay, so now we'll have to change. Mathematically, I forget what it is called, subtrahend and subtractor, something like that, right? I forget. Mathematically, they're called something. One is called subtractor and one is called subtrahend. Okay, I'll have to look it up. They have a subtraction. Subtraction is an arithmetic operation, is the difference, minus sign, whatever. Come on, tell me what is the first one called and what is the second one called. No, I don't want to say 2 minus. I want to say they're called something. They have a name. Okay. I'll do my English afterwards. As long as their comments are right, the number to be subtracted from number 1. But they have a name. One is called the subtractor, one is called the subtrahend or something. But here, the first number from which number 2 is subtracted, number 2, the number to be subtracted from number 1. Okay, kind of in a loop. But it's quite clear. I mean, there's nothing wrong in it grammatically or otherwise. It's just a confusing comment. There. So I've changed the comments. I haven't changed the local variables. It's okay. Who cares? I and you both can go to Timmy's and both ask for double. Doesn't matter, right? So the add method also calls its local variables number 1 and number 2. Subtract numbers also calls it number 1 and number 2. No relationship at all. Add doesn't know what you're calling it. Subtract doesn't know what add is calling it. That's the beauty of local variables. They belong to me. Whatever I like. Okay. So when you look at a method, look at it as a standalone independent unit. And look at it. The method is called subtract numbers. Returns a float. Remember we said difference is a small. So here signatures change. It's called subtract numbers. Returns a float. I just chose to. If you said, oh, double was okay, why don't you keep all answers in double? Sure. I'm just trying to confuse you. Okay. Returns a float and takes 2 floating point numbers. And what does it do? Number 1 minus number 2, and gives it back. And so what should you do now? You should take this method's name so that I don't make spelling mistakes. If I know how to use my mouse in a minute, I better do it this way. It's not working. Go to my difference variable in my main method and put it here. And remove it. And there is my difference. So I'll kind of comment this out, but they will all work, okay? Just to show you that you can do it as many, whatever you like. And since I know I'm going to subtract number, now it's up to you. Which number do you want to subtract how? You'll say, oh, I want to subtract number 1 from number 2 or vice versa. It's up to you. You tell it. It will exactly do what you tell it to do. Right now, it's going to do number 1 minus number 2. If you change their sequence, it will do number 2 minus number 1, right? You change the sequence, you call it with number 2 and number 1 and sequence change it, it will do number 2 minus number 1 because that's what you've told it to do. First argument goes into number 1 there. Second argument goes into number 2 there and you do number 1 minus number 2. The 1, 2 in the method. Pass it this way, it will do number 1 ONE minus number 2 TW. You change the sequence. You go number 2 comma number 1, it will subtract ONE from TW. Call it the way you like it, it will do your job. It just subtracts the second number. It just subtracts the second number. The second argument is subtracted from the first argument. That's its job. That's what it does. How you call it depends on you. But the job of this method is subtracting the second argument from the first argument. You have to exactly know it. Because if that's what you want to do. If you want to do the opposite, call it the opposite. You'll have a different answer, of course, right? The third one product is very similar to this. The only thing again is copying and pasting, which is okay. But after that, making changes is not okay. Right? So copying and pasting is, we say, oh, it's easy. No, it's not easy. You make more mistakes. Here also they have a name, multiplier and multiplicand or something, right? That's also called, they also have names in math. Multiplier, I'll just call it multiplier. And it returns the product of the two numbers. What's with my mouse? It just doesn't behave as I want it to behave. There. The laptop is getting old. You call it multiply numbers. It's always a good idea to kind of give them names that are similar. And remember the type? Double. And return. Doesn't matter. You can do number 2 by number 1, number 1 by number 2. Doesn't really matter. We know that plus and multiplication follow the rule of commutative property. So really doesn't matter how you multiply them. Really doesn't matter how you call them, because multiplication is no different. There, that's my third method. My third method is ready. It's an easy thing, right? All you have to do is give it a name, give it a return type, and give it a parameter list. The rest, what you have to do is what you are learning always. Let's write the fourth one also. And this method returns the quotient. Did I make a mistake somewhere? Are we okay? We'll call it divide numbers. And we'll say divide. And again, oh, this is called dividend and divisor. This I know. If you don't write it, write the number to be divided or the divisor. Number 1 is the dividend and number 2 is the divisor. And it returns the quotient. And we won't say quotient of two numbers. We'll say it returns the quotient of dividing number 1 by number 2. Just kind of don't, I mean, think about it. Product of two numbers is valid. Subtraction is valid. Difference is valid. But quotient, you don't say returns the quotient of two numbers. You say returns the quotient of dividing number 1 by number 2. Here also you can go a little better. You can say returns the difference of number, or returns the difference of number 1 from number 2. I mean, you can make it elaborate. And the last one, is we should have done this also. This will go in the description also. You have to be careful. I mean, this is important. These are comments that the whole wide world is looking at, right, and taking your help. And they're still called divisor and dividend. I think it is return the remainder. There. And this was a float. Division was also a float. Let's call it divide numbers. We'll call it remainder. You can say remainder after division or something, if you like, and we will change the operator. We'll call it remainder, and all looks okay. And save it. So float, double, float there. See how easy it is. You've just kind of, you're saying do this, and then you'll kind of put all these building blocks together and have your life. Right? So the building blocks are being created, the methods are being created, and then they will all be put together and the program can use it. Now, before I kind of go back and start using them, I would like to draw your attention to, they all have two parameters by chance, but that's how it is. We are working with two numbers. These parameters are also called value parameters. Let me tell you what a value parameter is, because there will be something else that will come out, which is called reference. A value parameter means whatever argument is passed to this method, it is copied into the number 1 box. So let me kind of show you what I mean by a value parameter. Okay, we'll take an example of add numbers. Okay, so here is the add numbers method. Okay, here is the add numbers method. It has this. It has two local boxes called number 1 and number 2. Two local boxes, two memory locations. So there is a number 1 memory location, and there is a memory location number 2. They don't exist till this method is called. There is nothing. These only exist when this method is called. Otherwise, they don't exist. These are just definitions. Okay. Now, from the main method, I'm kind of writing it very roughly. Okay. You call the add number methods, and you call it with your number 1 and your number 2. I have no clue what's their code. So suppose, just for the heck of it, number 1 has 5 and number 2 has 6. Please keep in mind that main has 2 memory locations by the name of number 1 and number 2. As soon as you run the program, they take birth. They are local. Main is called, they come into existence. You've already declared them. And 5 is put here and 6 is put here. Okay? Add numbers is called. Now, number 1 takes birth, number 2 takes birth. 5 is copied into this block and 6 is copied into this. These are called value parameters. Values are copied. Okay? A photocopy is made of it into their local boxes. Whatever you do here, whatever done, method finishes, dead. Comes back. These two are still alive because main is still going on. There is nothing called number 1, 2 with digits. But these are called value parameters. Value parameters means the value is copied from this box to this box. If I make a change to this box here, I say, oh, number 1's new value is 10. Will it affect that box? No. The effect is only here. So value parameters are those parameters that get a copy of the value from whoever is calling. They can do a change to it and change it here. But that change is not reflected there. The change is never reflected in the photocopy. I make a photocopy, I give it to you, done. Then I make a change on my paper. Does it reflect on your paper? No, because it's already been photocopied. These are called value parameters in any language. And the only places where Java supports value parameters is the primitive data types, because they are not references, they are value boxes. Okay? So these are called value parameters for your information for all time to come. In all languages, it never changes. So value parameters are those parameters that create locally boxes, and values are copied into this box. They play with this value, they do everything with the value. When the method ends, they die. And you could change them, you could do whatever. Original never gets affected. Okay, these are called value parameters for your information. And in Java, the only places that are value parameters are the primitive data types, nothing else. Okay. Okay, just so that you know, these are what they are. What are value parameters? If you hear them, good. If you don't hear them, which I doubt, you should know, oh, she mentioned value. What does value means? Value means making copies. Okay, they're all values. And easy way to remember is all basic data types are value boxes. Not in all languages. Therefore, I want to make it clear that yes, in Java, these are value and they're only the basic data types. Okay, let's complete it now quickly and see, are we getting answers? Okay, so remove your product, call the product method, call the question method, oops, call the question method, call the remainder, and we haven't yet written this. And I'm going to do this. I'm kind of going to take this numbers from here because that's common and put it here, put it here, and put it here, and then fill it up. We called it multiply numbers. We called it divide numbers. And we called it remainder numbers. And then now I want to display my output like you did in the first, in the last weeks. You said number 1, number 2, sums, and so on. Now I want to give this job. I want to delegate this job to this display output. Now the display output, poor fellow, has no clue of these variables. So all of these, the sum, the number 1, the number 2, everything will have to be passed to it. So take your number 1, Control C. Pass it. Take your number 2. That's the second parameter that is going. Take your sum. It has no clue about this. So it has to be given everything. Do your job with these numbers. The next one. In any order, really doesn't matter. I'm just doing it in the order because it's easy to copy and paste. Then comes product. Then comes quotient. Then comes remainder. So here is an example of a method that returns nothing but takes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 parameters. So I have now to write a method that takes 7 parameters. And an easy way would be copied from here because I filled it here, right? And write your method. It is again a private method. This way you can make mistakes, right? I mean, of course, look at me. I make mistakes over mistakes and you correct me, but just saying. Okay, complete it. It's a private method, has to be static, returns nothing, is called display output, and I'm just lazy. I don't want to even change their names. So that was a float. Number 2 was a float. Can the names of parameters be same as the names of somebody else? Why not? Brett's parents both thought, oh, we would call our children Brett. So I display output says, I'm going to call my children number 1, number 2, some difference quotient. Who can stop me? He doesn't know, or it doesn't know that somebody else is also calling their children the same names. Who cares? Nobody cares. I independently display output says, this is what I do. I take 7 parameters. I take 7 parameters of this type that I'm mentioning and I'm writing and I'm misspelling. Oh, no, float was a double. Sum was a double. This was a float. Quotient was a float. You can give it in any sequence you want. I just did it in the sequence because they were written like that and I just copied and pasted. And remainder was also a there. So I've written a method. See if there is a word wrap somewhere. Edit. Oh, there is an add method comment also. I'm seeing if there is a word wrap without doing any. I don't know if it will give me a problem. Let's see if it can kind of take it like this. No, it cannot. Yes, so they have to be written in one line. That's not good. Anyway, there's not a word wrap and it's not letting me doing anything. So I just copied it and gave them a type. Okay, that's all I did. Okay, and this was the end of the method. Display output. I'm sure you will say that's so much work, passing parameters just to get somebody's help. Think about it. When you get help from somebody, do you ever think, oh, that's more work? No, you say, help me. Right? So don't be lazy. The aim is to learn to write methods. And the importance of methods will be more prominent when we start writing classes and writing 1000-line programs, which we'll not do in this class, but then it will become more prominent. So a little work today will save me work tomorrow. All I have to do is, if this method, I've written a brilliant method and I just need, and you like it, I'll give you just my method code, copy paste, and you take it and use it. Though that's also will be overridden by writing classes. Classes will be complete in itself. I won't even have to copy and paste. I'll say, oh, I need your class. Can you give me your class? And say, yes, sure. Here is an object of my class. Right? So here is a method. And what will you do in this method? All your system out printlns, right? So I'm going to do a little bit of cheating. And that cheating is, why is it giving me an error? Because I put a semicolon here. That's why it's giving me an error, which is perfectly fine. And I'm going to go to the program we wrote last week. You can do the same. I'm not stopping you from cheating. And I am. And open up arithmetic operations in TextPad. And there. Display the results. Because I've already done it, I'm going to copy it from here into BlueJ, and I'm hoping that I didn't change their names. And go into BlueJ and copy them here. Bad job? There, okay. So the only thing is indentation. And notice how neat they look if they're indented properly, except that I kind of missed it. That's its default indentation. Oh, and somebody, I don't know from your class, oh, I forget now. No, okay, anyway, I won't confuse you. So I'm going to remove all crap. I just copied it from, oops. I was showing you that you can write it in different ways, but again, oops. And that's my display results method. So by oh, no. Okay, we'll have to make it number 1 here, because that's my parameter. What is called number 2 here. Okay, sum is called sum, difference is called, how come you went there, sir? Okay, difference is called difference, product is called product, and quotient is called quotient, and remainder is called remainder there. Sometimes just copy and paste does work, right? So that's my display method. Now, if you wanted to use printf, nothing stops you. Absolutely nothing stops you. You can start using printf. I would prefer that you use printf because then you will start saying, oh, %f, %d, and so on and so forth. And you will kind of learn to do it, right? And if you want to say difference, number 1 minus number 2, add more to it, quotient number 1, you can do this. Let's save this. All I changed was I made number 1 as number 1 because that's what the parameter was called here. So notice again, while I'm writing this method, I have no clue what goes on around my world. And that's how you should program in your own world. Then look outside. Okay? So this method says my job is to print this information that is given to me. And I know that the first number is number 1, the second number is number 2, the sum is coming in sum, the difference is coming in difference, the product and so on. You can change the order in which they are coming. You can change the order in which you are writing. And nothing else changes. So the program exactly should run the same way as it was running. And you will say, oh my God, that 10-line program she's changed into 50 and she says it's better programming. It is better programming. Because I made my program modular. It consists of methods now. And these are methods that I can change if I want to in any way as long as I don't affect anything. Each method does a job, right? And these are again all value parameters because by default they're all basic data type, primitive data type. Let's see if it works. I'm not sure. I just wrote it with you. Okay, let's run it now. Let's go to BlueJ. Do a right click. I've made all my methods private. Do it main. No parameters. Let's start. Please input your first number, 3.5. Please input your second number. Oh, do I have to put an F here also in BlueJ? When I give, no, not when you give your input, only when you use it as hard-coded. I'll do a 4. Oops, my difference is out of place, my quotient is out of place, and I'll tell you why these things are happening. But anyway, don't worry about that. Those tabs are not matching this, and therefore it's good to use percentages. So the first number is 3.5, the second 4.0. The answer is correct. 3.5 minus, I'm assuming the answer is correct because you can double check with the calculator, right? Everything looks okay. But now you'll say, why are they looking? They're out of sync here. Though here, when you wrote them, they were in sync. Because you see, when I use tab here, I'm not sure the text pad tab and these tabs, I wasn't sure what matches and what doesn't match. You know what I mean? Like I have no clue. So I'll tell you when you can be sure that everything will look perfect. If I put a print F here, I put a %20s here, for example, right? And the second one is what? Then I put a colon, and then I put the second number, which is a %.2f. And I say first number as a literal. I'm just kind of putting the word. It's a literal. And the second number. So see now what will happen. The first number, this literal, this string, first number will exactly take 20 spaces. Then will come a colon, then will come a blank, and then will come number 1 in .2f format. I don't have to now see which is matching and what is not matching. All I do is I copy this everywhere. The format, oh, and don't forget, oops, %n, otherwise we'll have all that untidy. So take this format and copy it everywhere. And copy it everywhere. Don't worry about the things in red, we'll take care of them. When you know how to format, then it becomes easy. Then you're not worried about colons and everything. They will automatically work correctly. Oh, this is not required. Okay, now this printf has to be, you keep quiet. This printf has to, if you let me do it, I will do it. F, okay, let's do this. No, not only user. Okay, Control C. For the sake of, okay, sometimes it is irritating. Won't even let me do what I'm trying to do. F. F. Now it won't bark. F. F. And the lines are okay. And these lines are okay. And now see what will happen. And look what I've done. I've kind of taken the first, the string, the second, the first, the string, and I don't have to worry. The first, the string, the second, the value I want to show. And notice the string here is a literal. It's called, the first number is in double quotes, and it will exactly come in 20s. And since all of them are 20s, nothing more looks to me more than 20. You could go 10s also, and I think we would be okay. And remove the pluses. So how many fill in the blanks? 2. How many am I giving it? 2. Everyone has 2. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. 2 variables or literals and 2 format specifiers. They will exactly look the same way. 20 as a colon, 20 as a colon, 20 as a colon, and then percentage point 2f, percentage point 2f. Let's try it. Let's compile it. Let's see how good or bad it looks. Oh, that's what I told you. Oh, anyway, can't do much about it now. See? Neat? I don't have to bother counting or tabbing or anything. Each one of them I gave exactly 20. You want to start them from the left-hand side, put a minus 20 and they'll be left just. Right now they are right just by default. Neat now? So don't have to kind of go printlns and tabs and how many blanks do I need? I'll use printf now. I know how to use printf. So each one of this is taking 20. Each one. So some only takes 3, the rest 17 are blanks. You want to move these headings towards the left, which will kind of look odd, but you can just put a minus in front of it and they will all move to the left. Right now they are on the right. As easy as that. Done. We have done methods. We know what value parameters is. We've used one method twice. The rest methods we've only used once, but we know how to write methods. We've done a big job. We've learned how to write methods. We know what parameters are. We know what a return type is, and we know what value parameters are. Right? And we've only worked with floats for now. But numbers can be ints or doubles or whatever. They can all be numbers. But can you also print whatever you like? Why not? Like, I mean, nothing stops you. You can do a string and pass it to a parameter and say, welcome, whatever. Right? So this is your calculator. It's complete. It's absolutely a complete program, which is modular in structure. We have methods. You can write methods in any order, doesn't matter. You can just, they're all in one class. Local variables I try to define in the beginning, so on and so forth. I want to look at the agenda. There is something that's coming into my head which I can't remember, which I said I would mention. Therefore, I write it because I get old. Okay, so I have introduced. This is just an introduction. Okay, we haven't talked about reference yet, but we will. Return value we've talked. Oh, decision and iterative statements. Okay, good. Okay, because I have some time, I can show you something. Now, this program is running once. You run it, it runs once, it again stops. You run it, it runs it. Wouldn't it be nice if I can keep running it till I say, oh, I'm done. Like you play games. You keep playing it. When you're done, you say, okay, done. So if I could make my program run more than once, I can kind of make a repetitive calculator. Input 2 numbers, do everything with it. Take 2 numbers, do everything with it. Take 2 numbers, do everything with it. That's one thing. 2, this program is taking 2 numbers and doing everything with it. What if you say, I'm not interested in all the operations, I just want addition. Can you only do that? You can also do that. Because on a calculator, you don't press 2 numbers and everything comes on this screen. You choose the operation. So 2 things. 1, can I make my program run more than once without going blue J, right click, main? Without, just keep on. It just keeps on executing. Can I do that? Yes. 2, can I choose one of the operations instead of writing all the answers? The answer is yes. For these 2, you need iterative statements. Iterative means do a job a number of times. And 2, you need basically a decision-making statement. Are you interested in that? Here is your answer. If subtract, here is your answer. If you want to multiply, here is your answer. Right? Let's do the first job first, and just let's do it for some number of times, just to show you an iterative statement. It's just the beginning. It's not the end of it. Now suppose you want to run your main program certain number of times. Right now, how many times is it running? Once. Your program is running only once. It runs and then it stops. Now, if I want to run my program a number of times, you'll say, how many? Let's say, because it's quite a bit of work, let's say 5 times. Okay. What can I do? Run the code 5 times. So you display the purpose, or maybe you just run everything for 5 times. Even display the purpose for 5 times. So let me introduce you to your first iterative statement. Iteration. More than 1 time. I've already introduced you to the if last time. It was a simple if, but I have introduced you. Now, if I want to do a certain job a certain number of times, say 5 times, it's fixed. Then I can use a for loop. Like in English. Do this for 10 times. Do this for 5 times. Don't you say do this for, I mean, it's not grammatically correct, but do this for 4 times. So there is a for iterative statement. One of them. There is a while and so on, but the easiest one. The easiest one is for, because it says, okay, how many times you tell me and I'll do it for you. I'll do the counting, I'll do everything, and I'll do the job. The other option is you may say, while it is raining, stay inside. Now you don't know till when will it rain. Then you use a while. But when you say for 3 hours, shut your ears and listen to Anju, then you exactly know it. Right? So while is something which says, I'm not sure when will it end. But for says, I exactly know when it will end. I know that I only have to listen to Anju for another 15 minutes. So for is an iterative statement in Java that allows you to do a job a certain number of times or till a certain condition becomes false too. While is not a counting process. While is more like, while it is raining, keep inside. While I'm hungry, keep eating. While it is still not the end of the class, keep listening. So while is more on a condition. For is more used for times, though it can also be used for a condition. Right? So let me write a for loop for you. Very simple. For, I want to do this job 5 times. Okay, so if I want to do a job 5 times, I have to do counting. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So it's not me who will count. Who will count? The computer will count. So I have to tell the computer count. Okay, so take an int. Usually it is declared right there itself. Take a variable I. Now here is a place where you will find a variable not very useful in name. I. These are called loop variables. They're looping. You can call it index. You can call it count. But I, J, K are usually used in for loops and they're okay to use. Okay. I'm going to take a counter. Where do you want to start? 1. Right? So you want to start a counter at 1. That's how you count, don't you? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We'll say if I want to start from 0, sure, go ahead and start from 0. Nobody stops you. Start from -5, sure. Doesn't matter. For loop will start counting from where you tell it to count. And it will stop when you tell it to stop. Okay, so what is the stopping condition? So semicolon. So a for has 3 parts to it. The for iterative loop has 3 arguments, you can say. They're not arguments. There are 3 parts to it. It's not an argument you're giving. You're telling it. It says where to start. So run the code for 5 times using the for statement. It's also called the loop, okay? And it's an iterative statement. And it requires 3 things from you. Initial, stopping condition, and increment or decrement. They may seem odd at the minute. Don't worry. That's okay. We'll talk and then we'll see if you understand. Okay. So where do you want to start? Counter should be 1. Till when do you want to go on? While the value of counter is less than or equal to 5. Remember relational operators from last time? The relationship is the value of counter while it is less than or equal to 5, keep on doing it. So do it for 1, then for 2, then for 3, then for 4, then for 5. When it becomes a 6, get out. Because the stopping condition is while the counter is less than or equal to 5. But you'll say, who's counting up? Who is doing the count up? The loop's third part is doing the count up. And the short form, I'll introduce you to a new variable, new operator. That is the increment operator in many languages. Counter plus plus means go up by 1. You could have written it like this. You could have written it, the new value of counter is the old value of counter plus a 1. Please look at this loop now for a minute with me. There are 3 parts to a for loop. They can be missing. We won't talk about it for now. The first part is called the initialization. Okay, that's the initialization. It may be empty. You will say if it is empty, where will it start? Then you will write a statement before it to where it starts. So basically, it's usually not empty. The second part is the stopping condition. This is my stopping condition. So keep on going while the value of counter is less than or equal to 5. The third part is actually called the increment or the decrement, or you can also call it manipulating the loop variable. Who's your loop variable? Counter. You could be decrementing it also. Anything. Therefore, I've written increment or decrement the loop variable. And just to show you how a for loop works without doing anything, I'm going to do something for you here. Once you understand it, then I'll put all the code in this for loop. I've written a simple for loop. My program will start with this. I've written a simple for loop that is dependent upon a value, a loop variable called counter. These are called loop variables. You can use IJKs for them. That's the only place where programmers use IJK. I prefer to use something that makes more sense to me. So I'm using counter. I'm saying start counting. Start with the initial value of 1. Check. Is the counter less than 5 or equal to 5? Yeah, it is less. Go inside the for loop. Do your job. Come back. Do the third part. Increment it or decrement it. Go back and check the condition. So this is how it works. Initialize, check, third part. Check, third part. Check, third part. Check, third part. Initialization is done once. After initialization, the checking is done. If the condition is true, the loop body is executed. If the condition is false, the loop stops. After executing the loop body, it goes back to the third decrement or increment part and does what you've said it to do there. What have you told it to do? You've said new value of counter is the old value of counter plus 1. So what will counter become? 2. It checks the condition. Are you less than 5? Yes. Does the job again. Goes back. Increments counter up by 1. Is it less than or equal to 5? Yes. Do your job. When it comes to 6, is 6 less than or equal to 5? No. Come out. That's what a for loop is. Exactly what it says. I do this job for 4 times, 5 times. Right? To prove to you, what I'm going to do is, I'm going to put the value of counter also here for you. So the value of counter with a plus, and then the value of, I'm also going to say, like you would teach a baby, count 1, count 2, count 3, and so on. Okay. Let me do a %d. Just because we've learned things, right? And let's kind of put a colon. Let's say a %s. Remove this plus from here. The name of the variable is counter. I'm trying to print hello. You could have said whatever you like. Don't forget the percentage, and let's see how count is working and how many times hello is working. So it's initialization, check. Increment or decrement, check. Increment or decrement, check. So if you want to make a note for yourself, this is how it works. Initialize. Check the condition. If condition is true, execute the body. It's called the for body. Okay, right? Now, then you do the increment or the decrement, whatever it is. Check again. So I'm going to put this kind of here so that I can say repeat. If the condition is true, execute the for body, else exit. Right? Otherwise, else. Increment, decrement, check. If condition is true, execute the for body, else exit. And this repeats, keep repeating. Therefore, it's called iterative statement. So initialize check, increment check, increment decrement check, increment decrement check, and it goes on. It has to stop. If you make a mistake in your condition, it will never stop. You have infinite loops. There are infinite loops, and it will keep on running forever. Memory will be finished. The program will say, memory is done. So there is a point, irrespective of how much memory you have. If a program keeps running infinitely, forever, within a minute, your program will say, done, stack overflow. I can do it. You've eaten up all the memory. Okay, let's try this. After you've understood this, all I'll do is I'll remove this system out println from here, where it seems I made a mistake because I see println has a, come on, look for it. What mistake have I made? No suitable method for println. What do you mean no suitable? Oh, of course I know what does it mean. Printf I wanted to say. There. Okay. Once you understand what this for is doing, I'll just remove this line and this closing bracket and put the closing bracket at the end of your main. And everything will run for 5 times. Right? Okay, first let's see if this runs. So let's compile it. Let's go back to BlueJ. Let's go a right click. Only concentrate on the for loop for now. How many times was hello printed? Proves that hello, the for loop works. Now, the rest of the will only work for once because that's not in a loop. But now what can I do? Now what can I do logically? I can take, just to say it, I can remove this bracket from here of the for loop and put it where? And put it before the main. Here, there. Now all these things, and I'll take everything from here till the quotient. Oh God. And indent it. Indentation is a big thing. It's very easy to forget about it, but it's something that you must keep in your hand. So starting from here, I'll use my shift. Go, and go to the right. And go to edit, indent more. There. Now everything looks okay. Okay, so now it will say hello and then it will say the rest. It will say hello and it will say the rest. You can say end of for loop. And this was the end of main. And let's compile and let's run. And the program will exactly run 5 times. Okay, count 1, hello. Number 1, number 2. Runs once. Count number 2, 3 and 3. Count number 3, 8 and -2, 4, 4.5 and division by 0. Let's see what does it say. In floats it is allowed. What should I have? NaN, N infinity. Okay. And lastly, 12 and 7. Stops. You've been introduced to your first iterative statement. Introduction only. Right? Are we okay? This will go on Blackboard. Revise through it. Come back with questions. I'm trying to see if I can get time. It's not the time. Yeah, it is the time. If I can make some quizzes for you on small things. Right now, it's just learning new things, right? But when you do more, maybe. Okay, so this is going on Blackboard, guys. Thank you for your patience. It's only 2:50 exactly. Okay. So on Blackboard, under your Monday section, anybody who has not shown me the running, please show. Okay. Okay. Name. Ah, yeah. Spell it for me, please. V-I-L-R. Birhanu. And last name was? That will do. Thank you.
General question.
Yeah, sure.
My block here won't display. I'm wondering if I just have like a.
Okay, if this is not displaying, go up. You haven't called it. See, you calculated everything, but you never called the block.
So I have to put in a.
Yeah, you have to
Okay,
put, you have to put a call to it, right? So,
Yeah, because the display purpose is up here, so I would just.
so do it after the remainder. Call it.
Okay.
You didn't call it,
I
so it's
see.
sitting
Yep.
there, but it's not being used.
Yeah, it's like, what are you talking
Yeah,
about?
right.
Figured
Okay.
it was somewhere.
Yeah. Okay. I'll be out of your way in a minute.
No problem.
Guys, I'm outside the class if anybody needs me, okay? Or I'm in, yeah.
This was left on the table when I came in.
Okay, so we'll just leave it here and maybe somebody will come back and take it. Thank you, Jeff.
Miss Angela,
Yes.
for Monday, is it possible to put it on 9? Because I'll follow on because I wouldn't be able to make it for Tuesday class.
You know what? If people cannot